You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast on BQN. We're here to showcase the films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. From independent and obscure to art house and absurd, each episode will gather, perhaps cocktail in hand, to discuss it all. I'm your host, Mark White, and with me today are Laz and Matt. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to you as well.
I didn't scare you off. Yay.
No, not at all. I keep thinking that we're doing this visually as well. So I've got like my hands under my face, like I'm a newscaster, and I'm not. No one can see me right now, but just know that that's what I'm doing.
Well, you look lovely.
Why, thank you. So do you.
Well, if this was a video podcast, there's no way I'd be sitting here in a towel like I am right now.
There's that. There's no the dress code for this podcast it's very loose.
Free and loose. What you drinking tonight?
I'm gonna let Laz go first because I'm ashamed to say mine.
No.
I'm today's sober sister for the podcast, so I'm having some refreshing H2O.
That sounds lovely. I'm not as classy. I have a Smirnoff Ice. It's strawberry and lemon. So for all of you wine drinkers out there, I apologize that I'm not as classy right now.
Well, I have a pomegranate Cosmo, and it's the bomb.com.
That
sounds
fancy.
delicious. What is in it?
Vodka.
I mean, yes. And that's all. It's just
There's
vodka.
a theme here. No, so where I work, they had a party, and they bought these pomegranate Cosmos from Stonewall Kitchen, and it's a great mixer, and it was a chem-free party, so they used non-alcoholic tequila, I guess, or vodka, whatever, and it was non-alcoholic, and they mixed it with it, and it was pretty good.
So does it taste like tequila?
I mean, ish.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like synthahol.
Yeah, it was like synthahol. Yeah.
I made a Star Trek reference.
Everybody listening watches Star Trek, I guarantee it.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
this
like
is on the
synthahol.
BQN. Yeah. It's like us in History with the Szilagys, and that's all you get for non-Trek related.
That's interesting. So non-alcoholic tequila. I'm so curious about that. Okay. All right. Put that on my list of things to do.
Well, we do have a little bit of somber news today. So literally just before we jumped on, we found out that the Queen, Tina Turner, has passed away. She was in her 80s.
Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. She looked good. I mean, at least the last time that, the duration of time that I saw her performing or saw her in public.
Yeah.
She was just, yeah.
If there's listeners that want to know more about Tina's amazing story, there's a couple of movies, because we're a movie podcast, that you guys should definitely check out. I think the first one I'm actually going to recommend, I'm going to do the reverse. The first one I'm going to recommend is Tina. It came out in 2021. It's a documentary directed by Dan Lindsay and TJ Martin. It's streaming on HBO Max or whatever they decide to call it next week. I don't know. Check it out. I really enjoyed the documentary. You really get to know her struggle and what she dealt with her entire life. And then there's also the movie What's Love Got to Do with It? That's a 1993 film directed by
Miss
Brian
Bassett.
Gibson. Yeah, and starring Angela Bassett. And, launched Angela's career, but also was pretty accurate to what Tina had gone through. And it focuses on, her early days with Ike and then leaving him and starting her own career. And it ends up like in the 80s. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think something of note is, outside of her music career, her honesty to be able to tell her story in all of these multitudes is incredible. And as you mentioned, Mark, very inspirational for so many people, people of domestic abuse,
Yeah.
as well as, just the adversity of being in the music industry, being a woman, being of
Mm.
color,
Mm-hmm.
and still coming out on top and always kind of owning who she was. So, although it's a sad day to have lost her, I think it's really important to celebrate everything that she represented and kind of take
Absolutely.
that with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Les. We did actually get some feedback. So
Yeah.
So feedback on this show announcement, and mostly from BQN staffers here. But I thought we should start off with some feedback because our colleagues had some nice things to say. So Captain Jeremiah of the Captain's Couch, he replied to Laz's post and said, "So happy to have you as part of the BQN family." Yes, everybody's excited that Laz is on board.
My question though is, do we have like a family dinner at BQN?
There are family cocktails. I'm not kidding.
Uh,
I didn't expect
when?
that.
Usually at STLV, we'll all get together at Fake 10 Forward Bar,
Oh.
which is Masquerade, and
Are you guys doing that this year?
yes,
Yes.
Oh
everybody,
man. Now I have to find a way to go.
you do.
You're close enough.
I know. Muffins and cakes. Okay.
I'll pay for your Uber.
Oh,
On that note, one piece of feedback pertaining to a special someone from Davy Willett. OMG, how did I miss the arrival of Matt Jennings to our collective?
Yay. That's you,
oh,
Matt.
oh, Davy. Oh, you. Oh, stop. Oh, gee. And Kevin Reitzel said, "That sounds very cool. Love movie pods."
Aw, thanks, Kevin.
Are we ready, guys?
Yeah.
Are we ready for this film?
I was born ready. Before Night Falls, in the year 2000, directed by Julian Schnabel and starring Javier Bardem and Johnny Depp. Based on the 1992 autobiography of the same name, it tells the story of gay Cuban writer Ronaldo Arenas, showcasing his early life in Cuba, his time in prison, and his escape to the United States in 1980.
So, I picked this one this week, and well, when we were thinking about all the films to watch, it was for me like an avalanche or just a complete just flood of movies came out of me of like all the years and all the films that I've watched that I've really enjoyed and have touched me. And there's been so many. Like I've been wanting to podcast about movies for such a long time, and I was thinking back about when I really started getting into movies, and when I was a teenager and going to Blockbuster, like I mentioned last week. And I remember finding this film, and this was one of my films that was a gateway to a whole other culture. Not only Cuban culture, but gay culture. It was a gateway into history. I got to learn more about the Cuban Revolution, and I had already read a little bit about it, actually, because I read Lucille Ball's biography. And in
Oh,
it,
interesting.
she talks about Desi Arnaz's struggle and his family were actually wealthy. I think his dad might have been, was he a governor or something? I think that he came from a very
Oh,
privileged family. And so at the time,
yeah.
his whole family got uprooted and they were penniless and had to move to New York.
Mm.
But of course, Lucy and Daisy would go on to make Desilu Studios. They would go on to start Star Trek. So everything sort of, comes full circle back to Star Trek.
It's all connected. Yeah.
But yeah, so this film for me, I just remember it being one of those early films that I found really special, and I hadn't gone back to really since. I just remember it was great and
Mhm.
hadn't seen it in years, so it was fun for me to do a rewatch. But I'm very interested to get your takes on your initial reaction, maybe to hearing about we were going to watch this one, and then what you thought of the film initially. Yeah.
So the funny thing is, my first exposure to this movie, or just to knowing that this movie existed, was, I want to say, probably when I was like, so this came out in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want to say 12 going on 13. And it was, and my dad's going to come up again. It was in like my dad's DVD, like the new DVDs, because DVDs were like just coming out in
Yeah.
like 99, 2000. And it was in my dad's DVD stack. And so I just saw this cover on this DVD of this attractive man on the cover and didn't think anything of it. Didn't even realize that I thought that the man was attractive at the time, but just remember the title of Before Night Falls. And I remember the artwork. That was my first exposure. And then I finally watched the movie because it was the next pick on our list of things to watch. And without going too much into a lot of the things that we're probably going to end up talking about, the relevance of this movie 20 plus years later is so haunting and empowering, and it's just a reminder of what we must do in adversity, and I think what we owe to ourselves in terms of authenticity.
Very well said. Yeah, I think for me, outside of the obvious, so I think I mentioned in the first episode of this podcast, but I'm full Cuban. So both sides of my family, my mom and my dad, are directly from Cuba. They came here and escaped communist Cuba to start a new life for themselves and their family. And this film hits home. I as soon as it came out, I was very inclined to watch it. And then on top of that, being a story about a gay writer in a very pivotal time of Cuba, also very appealing to me because I myself am a gay man.
What? You just outed
And
yourself on
Shock.
the podcast, Les.
And
I know, I'm sorry to offend anyone, but
There are
this is not
Christian
communist
listeners.
Cuba. I will be who I am. Send me to jail. And, in addition to that, just how expression and art form, and again, during that time of the Cuban Revolution and people being sent to jail just for, who they are and what they create. That's some scary stuff that honestly I'll get into later
Yeah.
in a deeper dive.
Yeah.
But I find that very appealing, and I think the film handles it super well. And funny story, my first job out of college was at a New York-based entertainment advertising agency called Indica Advertising. And they did a
Indica?
bunch of Indica. And they did a bunch of posters, including Pulp Fiction, The Last Samurai, Girl Interrupted. And one of the ones that they did was Before Night Falls.
Oh, wow.
So we had, posters in the studio hanging everywhere, and that was one that always was right by my desk, oddly enough. So yeah, this film touches home in a lot of different ways. And I can't stress enough how strict and how very sad that time was. My grandfather on my mom's side, his name was Angel Moreno. He was an artist in Cuba during that time, and he was very
Oh.
outspoken against, Castro's uprising. And he was in jail for about the same amount of time as Reynaldo in this film, 7 years.
God.
Wow.
It was only after getting out of prison for speaking his mind that he ended up in Florida after escaping. You could pretty much at that time say even the subtlest of things and get thrown into jail.
That's insane. I mean, there's so many things that I could say right now because obviously this film is so incredibly relevant, especially to things that we are seeing in Florida.
Mhm.
As just one example, even some of the language that is used in the movie I assume that some of the audio is taken from Castro's speeches as well. Words like deformed countries, youth, and right now, what are they saying about the queer community? They're saying things like we're grooming kids and that we're pedophiles, and
Usually people that say that type of thing are the people doing that type of thing.
right. I mean, using words like purge. There's that person that just said we have to eradicate transgenderism. Is that what he said? God, people that are listening, you know what I'm talking about. But words like purge, eradicate. It's the same language,
Yeah, the buzzwords. Yeah.
right? I don't know. It's just, again, listening to some of those things, watching this movie. I don't know. It's a wake up call. That's what I have to
and
say.
it's terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for me, speaking just for me, it's one of the reasons why I enjoy cinema so much, is because if it can open my mind and make me feel something, that's the best
Right.
art. If I can feel something.
Yeah.
And I've been putting off watching, I mentioned in the chat a few times, I've been putting off watching The Fabelmans. Because I was like, it's a long movie. It's Spielberg. I don't know, like, if he's still, got the magic he had, like, when I was a kid, like, I don't know. So it's sort of been on the back burner, but it showed up on streaming for Showtime, and I checked out The Fabelmans. And it was the story of his childhood and his life. Like, it's Spielberg's story. And he was a victim of, hate crime and bullying in school because he was Jewish. He at one point had put down his camera and just wasn't even going to make movies anymore because it was tied to like a certain point in his past that he was trying to run away from. And when I finished watching the film, I got this feeling that just reinvigorated me to do art, to create, And so I just had this smile on my face. We're like, yeah, that must have been a good film because now I just want to do my own art. So
Yeah.
Kudos to The Fabelmans. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I also think, this film deserves kudos as well for the fact that it's transporting you to a time that is not romanticizing Cuba. I personally, because I come from Cuban descent, and over the past several years, there's been a lot of conversations about how America perceives Cuba and like tourism to Cuba and all this stuff. And the reality is like there's still a communist entity, and sure, are some people happy? Of course, but that's what they know. That's what they've lived with. But the reality is, and I was looking this up, in Cuba, for a translator, which is like a pretty decent job, you get $20 a month.
Oh my God.
You are a farmer and you have 6 cows and you're starving and your family's starving. You cannot kill one of those cows to feed your family because the country owns it, and you will be put in jail even though technically you own that cow. There's certain realities. I like recently I was forced to watch the Fast and Furious films. They are not my
Not on this podcast.
cinematically. And one of them, the opening was set in Cuba, and it was romanticizing it. Like everyone's happy and in the streets, and like everybody's beautiful and wearing like fashionable clothing. And for me, I was like, this feels just wrong to my core.
That's a very Hollywood American. Yeah.
So I appreciate that this film doesn't try to put makeup on, the Cuban experience of that time.
One of the notes that I took down while I was watching this was that I appreciate that there's a constant backdrop of the world that you are living in, the shadow, the overall shadow of Fidel Castro, I guess, for lack of better words, constantly throughout this movie, leading up to Ronaldo's being put in exile, being put in prison. There are constant shots of, it's like happiness and celebration, and then you'll see a close-up of Castro's face. And that happens several times throughout the movie, just constantly saying, remember, this is out there. Remember, this is out there. This is always, there's a shadow that's always being cast. And I appreciate the honesty there.
For sure.
Well, my favorite part of this podcast is coming up, and that's Director's Cut, where we discuss and replay our favorite scenes and act them out sometimes. So
I feel like we need a jingle for this.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
That was missing from the first one. I did have Orson Welles saying ham sandwich, but that's all I got. Anyway, but yeah, we should get a jingle. The scene I chose was the scene where Ronaldo is like swimming, and there's a guy next to him, and it's kind of like a flirty moment. And I found this scene very relatable, especially as like at that time in my life, teenager, Northern Maine, didn't know any gay people, but like, testing the waters, so to speak, just checking with somebody like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe this guy.
A ham sandwich.
Laz, would you mind being my Ronaldo?
Sure, I don't know Spanish though, so I'll try my best.
Oh, bless you. Bless you for trying. And I will take the part of, he probably has a name in the actual script, but the script I found didn't have a name there, so I'm just going to write boy. So I'm going to take the role of boy.
You go, boy.
Thanks. Okay.
Perhaps twink? Twank? Twunk.
Oh, should I change it to twunk?
Twunk.
Why not?
Twunkish fellow.
I'll be playing the role of twunk.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Action.
You live around here?
Not far.
You want to come over and hear some music?
What?
I have some French records. Maybe you like Edith Piaf and Jacques Brel. Pero estúpido idiota. Are you out of your mind or what? Take the book with you. Ojalá se te caiga, pinga, maricón. Estúpido, coño.
Cut.
This scene is actually, there's a part 2 that follows up after the punch. So, Matt, would you like to play the man?
The man. Yes.
Okay.
Here I go.
Action.
People that make art are dangerous to any dictatorship. They create beauty, and beauty is the enemy. Artists are escapists. Artists are counter-revolutionary. And so you are a counter-revolutionary, Ronaldo Arenas. And you know why? Because there's a man that cannot govern the terrain called beauty. So he wants to eliminate it. So here we are, 400 years of Cuban culture and about to become extinct, and everybody applauds. And what happened to your lip?
I found somebody who doesn't like French music. That's all.
Cut.
That was probably the most I've yelled / cursed in a long time.
Yay! Get it all out. We could
And
feel
it was
the
all in
rage.
Spanish.
And that was his first time speaking Spanish.
Shock and awe.
Don't judge.
Well, honestly, if your voice was just like a couple of octaves deeper, you sounded a little like Javier Bardem in that.
I don't have that.
Yeah. Javier's got that. I don't know. There's like it's not glottal. It's like there's water in his throat. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are we sure it's
There's like-
water? Maybe he's method acting.
Semen. What we're saying is that there was semen there.
Yes.
That's what we're saying. People listening on BQN.
The one person.
It's relevant.
Thanks, Davey. He's just listening for Matt. So we have another scene here that we are going to discuss this week, and that is the scene where Javier Bardem's character is on the beach, and he is discussing the 4 types of gays. And this was chosen by you, Matt?
Yes, it was. No, so I saw this scene, and I think, I don't want to say there's a little bit of me in all of these people, but I think that, and I want to speak for everybody, but maybe a good chunk of the queer community can see themselves in each of these types, not to compartmentalize anybody into one
Well,
thing.
do you want to read the types?
Yes, I do. So we have the dog collar gay. He's loud, shows off that he's gay. There's no limit to his sexual veracity, therefore he's constantly being arrested. The system has created a permanent collar around his neck so they can hook him up and take him to a rehabilitation camp. And then we have the second, the common gay. He's made his commitments with other gays. He has a job. Film clubs, likes to sip tea with his friends, writes a poem now and then, only has relations with other gays, never takes a risk, and never gets to know a real man. Then we have the third one, the closet gay. Nobody knows he's gay. He's married, has children, hides on his way to the bathroom, still wearing the ring that his wife gave him. They're hard to spot. Most of the time, they're the ones who censor other gays. And we have the fourth, the royal gay, a unique product of our country, a communist country, because of his closeness to our maxim leader or special work with the state security. He can afford to be openly gay, travel freely in this country and abroad, cover himself with jewels, clothes. He even has a private chauffeur. And so I think even if, you're in the queer community and you don't see yourself in one or all of these, I think that we can all say that maybe we come across one or all of these people that have these qualities. I'll start with the royal gay, for example. Again, not to compartmentalize people, but when I think of words like the closeness to the Maxim leader, which I'm assuming he is referring to Castro at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
He can afford to be openly gay, travel freely in his country and abroad. For some reason, I think of that group, Gays for Trump. Does that make sense? Am I ringing a bell?
No, Gays for Trump does not make sense. But anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like, it doesn't make sense. But
But
there's
it
that.
exists.
But it exists, and I think that's that mentality. That mentality exists. Unfortunately, there are the third one, closet gay. Nobody knows he's gay. He's married, has children, hides on his way to the bathroom. There are still people out there that do not feel comfortable being themselves. That is their own journey. We can't chastise anyone for that, but that is something that is still very real. We have the common gay, made commitments with other gays, has a job, writes poems now and then, only has relations with other gays, never takes a risk. There's a little bit of me in that one because I am such a goody two-shoes. So I see a little bit of myself in the common gay. And, I also, have come across the dog collar gay, the one that has no limit to their sexual veracity, the one that, the system has created a permanent collar around his neck so they can hook him up. I will say that I have, in my life, had people that are that dog collar gay, maybe not so much the aspect of having the collar around their neck, but of being loud, showing off their gay in such a way that it was nurturing for me and encouraging me to be my full authentic self. And I've had those people throughout different stages of my life. When I was coming out, in the process of coming out when I was 15, 16, my youth pastor was gay. I had no clue. People would say things in church, and they would joke around and say things like he's got sugar in his tank and whatever, stuff like that. And I didn't know what they were talking about. And then, I had kissed who was going to be my first boyfriend in high school, and I panicked and I was really scared. I called my youth pastor right afterwards because I felt like I needed to ask for forgiveness or, some ridiculous thing. And my youth pastor, who was gay, was able to calm me down and talk me off a cliff after having that amazing experience. All that came from him being someone who was authentic in who he was. And in that authenticity, he was a nurturer. So
that's nice.
In that way,
That's nice. That's really...
Yeah.
I didn't think that's where you're going with that comment. When you started talking about the dog collar gaze, I thought you were going to go to almost a kink shaming place, but you didn't go there. So I'm serious. That's where I thought you were going to go. It just sounded like you were heading in that direction, and then you drove the car a different way, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, cool, good for you.
Yeah, I just think there's the people in the queer community, I think just in general, who are unashamed and are authentic to themselves. You can do a lot for someone else who is struggling to express that for themselves. And so, I've had people like that. And, for those people out there who have helped me on my queer journey, thank you. Thank you for being the dog collar gay.
I think that this conversation that happens within the film also opens up something that I personally, and again to our listeners, anything we're saying, this is all sensitive content. This is, very deep stuff, and we all have our own opinions. So feel free to share your own as well. Like, nobody's putting a stamp or a declaration on what is right or wrong.
Right.
But this brings up something that I've always struggled with personally, in the idea of, as a gay man, do I have to archetype myself in a group of people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, very early on, I knew I was gay very young, and I felt very confident with that. But I also never felt like I fit in within the gay community because I didn't hit the beat. I never was the risk taker, which is, like a little bit more of the dog collar.
Dog collar, yeah.
Saying that, but I never felt like loud or flamboyant, or that just wasn't my style from a personality standpoint. I didn't like things that I was told gay people should like. Gasp! I know our viewers will continue to hate me, but I'm not into like Madonna or Britney Spears. I never was. I was more into like rock music and comics and things that, again, during that time were not the thing that gay people enjoyed. So I would always get like, oh, that you're gay? That's so weird. Like, you like all stuff I like, dude.
Yeah.
So I never felt like I could fit in with the gay community or the straight community. And that created a little bit of resentment, I think, from my side on falling into a category even after that. Once I became fully myself and was happy with just kind of like being everything all at once. Call back to our last film. But coming to that acceptance, I still get a little bit of a twitch when I think about, why do we have categories? Why do we have to categorize what kind of gay is right or wrong or whatnot? And sometimes I think it's a comfort thing for a lot of people. Sometimes it works for people because, fitting into something, it's like a warm blanket.
It's very Borg, in my opinion, from Fidel Castro trying to filter out certain things, make sure that people have a certain mindset, even down to the categorization of the different types of gays. Like you said, it's a way for people to have an easier time coping, compartmentalizing. There's something that's very... Is assimilationist a word? Someone listening right now, please look that up. Maybe I just made it up just now.
I like it, though.
There's something very assimilationist to doing that. I never quite fit in that way with the queer community. I mean, I do see myself in some of these things that are listed here, but overall, especially when I was coming out, I didn't like Madonna. I didn't like Cher. I mean, RuPaul's Drag Race is a little different. I don't know. It caught me during the pandemic. What can I say? But I didn't really meet all of the stereotypes. And as a person of color, being black, I didn't meet all the stereotypes either. That's another story. Something that I would often hear a lot, I still hear it, being black and queer, is, "Oh, you carry it so well. I didn't know. I had no clue. If you met Matt, you would never know. You carry it so well." And I had to get to a place to where I starting to feel grateful for that, and thanking people every time that they told me, "You carry it so well." Even with being an actor and having representation and managers who say, "I think you can play straight very well," which has been told to me several times. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
What about you, Mark? How do you feel about this?
I mean, I can see, I guess, a little of myself in both your statements. When I was younger, I did gravitate. I was like, oh, I really like Madonna, and I like Cher, and I, liked the stuff that I was seeing with the queer culture, but I had to pretend that I didn't, and hide it and bury it and feel like it was something I should be ashamed of. As somebody who was raised Catholic, it was like I had a lot of shame growing up. And yeah, I also, was somebody that, growing up, I could be somewhat passable.
Yeah.
And I avoided, even as an adult, like avoided going to drag shows and things like that, because that was always, the other gays that were just out and whatever. And there was a certain amount of jealousy in that people could be out and proud and enjoying themselves and live like that in a way that I couldn't, because I always had to repress who I was, Like I told you guys at the start, I auditioned for plays and things growing up, and I wanted to be active in it, but also was afraid that if I tried too hard, people would know that I was gay and then out me, and I'd be bullied. And, there were, kids ahead of me that were bullied right out of school and had to move away. I mean, literally the person that, a class ahead of me that happened to. And then a few years before that, it had happened. So I wasn't going to stick my neck out like that and have that happen.
Yeah.
I just tried to keep my head down as much as possible through school. So, like I said, as you guys were talking, I was just processing and thinking that I can see myself in both stories. I can relate to both of you guys.
Yeah. There are certain things that you get programmed with. There's certain things that are taken away from you. But Billy Porter had said once, as queer people, the first thing that they take away from you is God, is your spirituality. That's what he said. I think that's what he said. They take your spirituality away from you first. And that's for anyone that has a spiritual life. Some people don't, and that's absolutely fine. But for people that do, for people that were raised in the church, growing up queer, realizing that you are queer, that's the first thing that gets taken away from you. And so for me, that's always like one of the staples, the pillars of like where that programming starts, that self-loathing, that shame. Because if you're creator, if you are not worthy of being in your spiritual life, how can you be worthy to exist on this planet?
It's also funny, or not funny at all, but just that notion that you're saying, it's like, and it's very relevant to what's happening these days as well. It's like you start off and you hit all these roadblocks coming into your own and just accepting your sexuality. And then, kind of bringing it back to this conversation within the film, it's like then you start, because it's like learned knowledge, it's internalized, homophobia that you're, redoing to yourself. Then you have to categorize and you have to find your niche to
Hmm.
stand out within your new community. And it's like high school, right? It's like you fall
Yeah.
into a clique, and that's where things, go a little bonkers within itself. So, like with this conversation, that's why it makes me slightly uncomfortable because it's like it's almost like that Sex in the City trope. It's like, oh, are you a Miranda? Are you a, Carrie? Are you a blah blah blah?
That's such a Samantha thing to say.
But it's like, do you have to be one of
Yeah,
those things? Why
yeah,
can't you just be who you are and still be part of a community?
absolutely.
So I think we should pivot now to rewrites. If you guys remember last episode, this is a section where if you could change something, what would it be, and how would you change it? Personally, I kind of love the movie, but it's a real bummer at the end. So if I would go on Quentin Tarantino, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'd make the ending happy. So Ronaldo would move with his partner to California. They would adopt a puppy, and there'd be a rainbow over their house. So that's how I'd fix it. What about you guys?
I think if there was one thing I would change, because this is an autobiographical story,
Hmm.
so I wouldn't change any of the narrative itself or the, structure of this person's true life and, how those events played out. But I wish that it strung together in a way that was written to tell a story a little bit more seamlessly. At times, it felt like the film was going with more of the stream of consciousness, like, kind of jumping from thing to
Mm,
thing
Hmm.
yeah.
without something to really tie all of it together and
Hmm.
have like one cohesive art piece about this person. So I would say something like that would have probably made it stronger. But overall, bravo to the storytellers.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think overall the story of Ronaldo is one of rebellion, and to me, you can see it throughout the movie, whether it was the sex, whether it was his wit that he uses in the face of authority. I think the one thing that I would change is that, more along the lines of with what Mark said about the way that it ends, and also taking along with Laws what you said about sticking to the honesty and the authenticity of the story. I think especially in the late '90s, early 2000s, there's so much of the queer journey that's being told that ends in tragedy.
Mm.
Maybe it's just a product of its time. I think it's getting a little bit better now with some of the queer stories that we're telling, but we need more queer stories of triumph. And I think at the end of the day, this is a story about triumph. And I think there are so many stories about the death of the queer artist,
Hmm.
the queer character, and it always ends in tragedy.
Yeah.
And it's always a downbeat at the end. And it's not necessary, I think.
There's a spot towards the end of the film where his character and his best friend, they're laying on top of that car going through New York, and it's snowing, and
Yeah.
that would have been a beautiful place to end, and they could have
Oh
had
my
the
God.
the crawl there, and then all of a sudden it fade to black, and they would be like, tell the story after in text of like, he lived a
Yeah.
few more years, this is what happened, blah blah blah. But the final moments of the character would have been this bliss.
Yeah.
For you guys, is it more about the tone or about like the actual ending? Because like I kind of disagree a little bit with both of you in that I'm like
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? So like it's
Yeah.
true. We had to come a long way to our point now with media where, like we're not doing the kill our gays trope with
Yeah.
everything or things like that. But when it comes to something autobiographical and something dealing with of its time, like this guy got AIDS and he was dying, and that was the truth of his circumstance. I'm slightly against the revision of something like that when it comes to the story of what actually happened to
Mm.
somebody. So as an example, like another film I like is Frida, which is
Yeah.
a biographical film starring
Yeah.
Salma Hayek about Frida Kahlo, who's also an artist and has queer tendencies as well. But her realities and kind of that sad, tragic artist thing is part of her story.
Mm-hmm.
And they do very much hit home that she does pass away at the end. But tonally, I think they might have handled that better than this film.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking, like, is it more of a tone thing or more of just like we want it to be happy?
I don't think it's a we want it to be happy. I think personally, mm,
I think it would have been better to focus on the triumph of him, leaving communist Cuba, getting to America, being able to write, having an apartment with his best friend. Good. Triumph. Then, like I said, through the crawl, through the after, you could say, oh, by the way, this is what had happened to him after. It wouldn't have been any lie. It wouldn't have revised anything. It just would have ended on a positive note of, like, triumph.
just coming from a personal place, I think that being black, being a person of color, there's enough stories about the reality shown in detail. There's enough of that. There's enough of that when we go through our walking lives. I think all three of us can speak to an experience that we've had in person. So I think on one hand, it's, there are certain things that we are very aware of, but I think about movies that show the black experience, it's okay to show stories of black joy and to emphasize the joy, and not an erasure of the journey and the authenticity of the person's story, but try to really emphasize the joy and the triumph, because I think that's the purpose of the piece. And I think just like I want to see more stories of black triumph, I think I want more stories of queer triumph as well.
I think that's a great spot to pivot to topic 4, which is standouts. So this is a new topic we're throwing in this week, where if we haven't covered something, this is your opportunity to cover it and talk about something about the movie that, I don't know, made an impact to you. I want to start by saying that I really enjoyed the score by Carter Burwell. I thought it had an ethereal quality to it, and throughout the film, from the very beginning, when you start off sort of in the jungle and you hear like the drum beats a little bit, and to the scenes wherein he is escaping the prison, and the music throughout is just really beautiful and haunting, and really sets the mood for what you're watching. I really enjoyed it. I like that this movie had a space to breathe. It wasn't super fast-paced. Mm-hmm. You could live within the environment of the film and the characters, and it made Cuba a living, breathing place for me. And I appreciate that, and I think the score helped to do that.
Yeah. So I will jump in. I think it's safe to say that a big standout within this film is effectively this film is an actor showcase for Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
So early in his career, it's great material, I think, for an actor to work with. It's super rich. It just kind of shows the commitment he had to portraying a real life person in a very insane circumstance. So I think he was fantastic.
I think for one thing, I really loved that there's the scene where Javier is talking to the two, I want to call them mentors, that told him his work was amazing, and they gave him this list of books to read. I think for when artists need their champion, and I heard Tim Russ say this on a podcast in regards to actors specifically, but I think it expands itself to artists and people just in general. You need your champion. You need that person that is going to push for you. And I love Ronaldo had that, and I love that scene, because I think in general throughout our lives, artists as well, we need that person that's going to push us, that's going to see that thing in us and say, go that way, I see what you have, keep going. So I think that's important. Also, if we think about the way that things are being banned and censored right now, it is so important for people to tell their stories, for artists to tell their stories, because you never know what individual is going to say, oh, I went through that too, or I'm struggling with this. How did you get through it?
Mm.
You know, everyone's story is different, but there is a element of, I always say ministry, but that's because I'm a spiritual person. I know that doesn't apply to everyone. When I say ministry, I mean that in terms of someone's story being a parable for someone else,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's that vulnerability to share oneself.
Right, exactly. And there's that authenticity. And so, you know, the more that we share those stories, I think the more that we can help other people. We can help other people be their authentic selves. So it's so important for people to tell their stories. And I encourage anyone listening, please tell your stories. We need them.
Let's move on to trivia. Benicio del Toro, who I loved in Fear and Loathing, and it's interesting that he was also a choice to play Ronaldo in this film. So he was offered it before Javier Bardem.
I don't know if that would have worked for me personally.
Would have been different for sure.
It would have been a different performance for sure. I agree. I learned that margarita means pearl because I was trying to look up in between, you know, some of the subtitles and trying to translate certain things. Margarita means pearl, and I think that is a beautiful thing. It means so much more than the drink. I know that sounds basic, but it's a beautiful word. That is what I'm trying to say.
So almost every scene was photographed with a chocolate-filtered lens that contributed to the dramatic colors and textures of the film.
I noticed that when I watched it, you know, in the early aughts, that it just had this quality about it that was just really different. And some of that, you know, was definitely had to do with the colors and the textures.
I think it adds not only to, you know, it's very complementary to the backdrop of Cuba during that time, but it also gives it kind of that vintage quality and supports that for the time period.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It really does transport you to a different time. No, the UK version of this film was cut by 18 seconds to remove a shot of a live bird being caught in a noose. Oh my God, was it a live? Wait a minute. It was a live bird caught in a noose?
Evidently, I don't remember that scene. Maybe it was
I
cut
don't
from the
remember that
version we
scene
saw.
either. What?
Unfortunately, that live bird went method for this role.
What? Oh man, I shouldn't be laughing at that. Oh
You're a
no.
horrible person. Oh my God. Well, a little more uplifting trivia. Johnny Depp plays Lieutenant Victor and Bon Bon. So he's got dual roles in this. Go Johnny.
The movie was filmed in Mexico.
I found this out because I looked it up after watching that scene in Fast and Furious 3 million or whatever they're up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, Cuba was off limits to a lot of film and TV productions,
Mm,
just the relations between the US as well as other various allies and countries.
yeah.
So, oddly enough, Fast and Furious did film there, and they opened up those restrictions for them for that particular segment.
Which you said was
Mhm.
propaganda-like anyway.
It was very realistic.
Director Julian Schnabel, his wife played Arenas' mother, and his children all had bit parts in the film. So that's kind of cool.
Oh.
I called nepotism.
Marlon Brando and Al Pacino were considered for the role of Zama Lima.
Well, the director, Julian Schnabel, got the idea for the film while making Basquiat. However, it took 4 years to get the film produced. Have you guys seen Basquiat?
No, I have not.
Oh my goodness. Well, I really enjoyed the film. I learned a lot about him, and I thought it was cool to see David Bowie. David Bowie played Andy Warhol, and he had met Warhol, and so I thought he had sort of an informed performance of the man, and I really enjoyed his performance as Andy Warhol.
Was he wearing leather pants?
No.
So, Bardem spent 6 weeks in New York City with Reynaldo's best friend Lazaro to prepare for the role and learn how Reynaldo walked and talked. And in addition, the film was co-written by Schnabel, Lazaro, and Cunningham O'Keefe.
That is cool. I think that's something about, when actors are preparing for roles, the getting the opportunity to, if it's a biopic, to work with those elements of that person's life, whether or not that person is still alive, and spending time with that person, or spending time with friends of that person, family of that person. I always think that's a really interesting part of the process. That's really cool. I love that.
It's also respectful, I think, to the person
Mm.
to like go to people that they cared about and really truly understood them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Javier was nominated for an Academy Award for his breakout performance in this film.
Well
Bravo!
deserved.
Rightfully so.
Well, let's launch into final thoughts. And we're going to kind of use this as like an awards ceremony. And this week we're going to give out, is it croquitas?
It's croquetas.
Croquetas. There we go.
So for our viewers, croquetas are a traditional Cuban, I would say like snack item. It could also be considered like a street food. And it is basically, and there are many different kinds of flavors, but the most common is like a ham mixture that is doughed and fried. And it's like almost the size and look of a mozzarella stick, but it is delicious. And if you haven't had a croqueta, find one at a Cuban restaurant near you.
Well, I would give this film 4 out of 5 croquetas. And I picked the film. I'm only leaving off a croqueta because, well, it bummed me out. But I loved the film, but it still bummed me out. Anyway, sticking with it.
I would also give it 4 out of 5. I think that's just because of it bumming me out as well. That's all.
Okay.
I don't want to end this on a sour note. That is not what I'm focusing on as well. The thing that I really take away from this movie, and that I hope people take away from this movie the most, is the triumph of the story and the relevance, the continued relevance of this story. More than anything, please take away the relevance of this story.
Yes,
How
people.
necessary it is.
This is not Schindler's List. It is a funny film. It's an enjoyable film. There's something for everybody. You'll laugh, you'll cry. I don't know. It'll scare you. There's something for everyone here.
I will give it also 4 out of 5 croquetas. I think it's a great film. I don't love some aspects of the directing and some of the narrative choices, like I mentioned before. So that takes away one delicious Cuban snack. And my final thought, I would just say, like in a day and age where we're dealing with so many issues facing representation, human rights, and the importance of art and literature for the LGBTQ community, as was mentioned earlier. And I hate to be preachy, and sorry, viewers, but some of the things that are happening in Florida now with books being banned and conversation and media surrounding LGBTQ plus characters and the community as a whole. It's really important for us to be able to look at our world history and understand how people, how artists, how hard they fought to just be who they are, create who they are, and exist as they were. And at the end of the day, being different shouldn't be condemned. Creating our truth should not be a privilege to anybody.
Yeah.
So taking those forms of expression away from anyone is, in my opinion, not only criminal, but it sets our society back. Like, let's all learn from what's come before as represented in this film and not repeat atrocities from the past. Let's keep moving forward and progressing and appreciating the stories, again, that have been left by someone like Reynaldo and countless others to the whole point of them sharing was so that we move forward and allow those in modern day to exist happily.
Yeah.
I agree. Well said.
So with that, next episode is my choice, which I'm super excited about, and it is completely out of character for me once I read this description. Because at least the viewers or listeners rather that know me know I'm much more of a horror fanatic and I like my genre stuff. But I've chosen a film called Shop Girl. So Shop Girl is a 2005 American romantic comedy drama film directed by Anand Tucker and starring Steve Martin, Claire Danes, and Jason Schwartzman. This is a film adaptation of personally one of my favorite novellas. It's not a full-on novel, written by Steve Martin himself about a complex love triangle between, and I will say that this synopsis doesn't give the film as much credit, but a love triangle between a bored salesgirl, a wealthy businessman, and an aimless young man. So I'm excited for us to dig deeper into that.
This will be definitely a lighter note from from this week.
Yeah.
It'll be lighter, but it's deeper than you would think from the poster art and the synopsis.
I really hope so.
Because I like downer films.
No. You're one of those.
I was all side-eye at this film. When you was like, oh, Shop Girl, I was like, okay. Rom-com, okay. But then I looked at it and I watched this trailer and I was like, well, Steve Martin's in it and I love Steve Martin. And Jason Schwartzman, I'm sold with Jason Schwartzman because I watch all of his films. So I'm going to see this one and I'm going to probably like it. And if not, minus the croqueta.
You can take all my croquetas if you don't like it. It's a film that I don't know that all of us are going to love, but it was a film that I saw when it came out, and it surprised me because, again, on paper, it is not the kind of film that I would choose.
No, I'm totally looking forward to it. I mean, so again, bringing up my dad, I watched a couple of romantic comedies with my dad and also with my mom. So between the two of them, there was like Sleepless in Seattle, which is probably my favorite. I've got a whole time travel theory there. One day I'll share it. It's wild. When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, Best Friend's Wedding. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this because I love romantic comedies. So, yeah.
Well, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at CinemaZPod and let us know if you'd like to recommend a film. Please follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. So, Laz, where can people find you when you're not baking scrumptious croquetas?
Well, when I'm not baking scrumptious croquetas at Laz's Croqueta Bakery, I can be found on social media at Laz Marquez, LazMarquez, and you can also see my work at www.lazmarquez.com. And Matt, where can people find you when you're not stealing croquetas from my bakery?
Well, you can find me, Laz, on Instagram at 1701BLERD and on TikTok because I'm trying to get in with all the young people. And that's going to be at 1701_A_BLERDS_Tori, because when I was making the name, I accidentally separated Blurred's and Story, so it should be Blurred's Story, but I put an underscore under the S, so it's Blurred's _Tori. I probably shared more information than I needed to, but I'm on TikTok. That's the point. I'm on TikTok now. That's a new thing. And Mark, where can they find you when you're not putting croquetas in your anus?
I'm just saving them for later. I'm not doing that. You can find me on Twitter at MarkWhite207. You can find me on the BQN Collective Facebook group. You can find me on All Good Things. It's a podcast I do where I talk about Star Trek, and it's a lot of fun. And if you become a patron of the network on Patreon, I host the show It's Green, and interview show, so each episode's kind of different, and that's a lot of fun as well. Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review that helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows like All Good Things, Galaxy Class, History with the Szilagys, Infinite Diversity, Union Federation, What's the T-Bev, Trexperts Quiz, The Captain's Couch, and Bargain Bin Gamer.
At this time, we'd like to thank our associate producer, Amy Nelson, and a special thanks to Laz Marquez for our artwork each and every week. The opening and closing music for this podcast is titled Dancing Dead, and it was provided by Ketsa from the Music Free Archive, providing royalty-free music for content creators.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We will add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
We really hope you'll join us next time.
And hopefully you have some croquetas in hand.
Nom nom nom.
Nom nom nom.
Also, Benicio del Toro scares me. So.
Oh,
So does Javier Bardem, but
Benicio del Toro gives me a scared boner.
oh my word.
Scared boner! What is a scared boner?
You've never heard of a fear boner before?
No!
Oh,
I have
you
never
got some
heard of a
Googling to
fear
do, bro.
boner. I don't know what I'm gonna pull up. Besides, I don't know what's on Twitter.